Okay, I just wanted to keep going through the exam review and just kind of walk through every problem so you see how to do each one. I want to hit this again here. Senior exam is Friday, May 14th, 9:45 to 11:15, and then our junior exam is Friday, May 21st, 8 to 9:30. All right, well, I got your attention here. I'm just going to show you where these things are housed. I will connect them on the homepage, but you can go to Canvas, and if you go to the online, here, you can access them through modules. And it will be under not unit 10, but final exam down here at the bottom. And so I got final exam review, and I got unit 7 review. On the final exam review, okay, that lists the review sheet, okay, with the problems themselves. And then here is the review key. I believe I sent out an attachment today or on Monday, but also it'll be online on Canvas as well. So you can access the review key there. It goes through the problems, lists the work as well. And then if I go back here, and then I'll put a new one up for each case for unit 7 review. That is where it has the video as well. And I'll also send out the videos and then just the exam reviews. I just figure the more places I put it, the better chance you have of accessing it. Okay, let's go to this case here. For unit 8, it's really covers 6 through 9. Number 6, plot and label the points in the graph to the right. Now, the way this graph is, I couldn't list everything, but the marks, the spokes are every 30 degrees. So you're going 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, and then this is 0 or 360 degrees. Now, all the other angles are represented. They're just not a spoke. So if you want to talk about 45 degrees, you'd go halfway in between 30 and 60. If you want to talk about 80 degrees, you'd come over here close to 90. With a point 420 degrees, you go out a radius of 4. You go over to 120 degrees, and that would be the point A. 1, 2, 3. And make sure you put a dot there and you label it with a capital letter. 240. So you go over 240 degrees. 2 would be 2 radiuses out. So that would be point B. Now, what you got to watch for negatives. Positive angles go counterclockwise. You start at 0 and you go counterclockwise. If it's a negative angle, you go counterclockwise. And so I go 4 negative 60. That means I go 60 degrees down and I go out 4. That would be 4 negative 60. Now, these can be represented multiple ways. So C is 4 negative 60. That would be equivalent to the point 4, 300 degrees. So negative 60 and 300 degrees are coterminal. D, negative 3, negative 150. Okay, if you got a negative radius, think of it, first of all, as 3 negative 150. And so go 150 degrees clockwise, which would put me right here where 210 is. That would be negative 150, and you go out to 3. If it's negative, what you do is you go here, go through the origin, and you go 1, 2, 3 on the back side right to there. So I'm going to take that line out. And so it's going to be right here. That will be point D. So you go negative 150. If it's a negative radius, you go through the origin to the other side. So the other point that is the same as, that would also be the same as 330 degrees. So different ways to label this, the same point. So that's just a review of going through polar coordinates. Convert the given polar coordinates of the point to rectangular coordinates. Leave answers in exact radical form. No decimals. Well, if you got a polar point, 6, 150, not that you have to draw it out, but it doesn't hurt to understand. You have a radius of 6 at 150 degrees. So it'd be right here. So that's 6, 150. Basically drop this and you're going to create a right triangle. Okay. And so this is X and this is Y. And so cosine of that angle is going to equal X over R. And so we went through earlier, X is going to be R cosine of theta. Y is going to equal R sine of theta. And you need to know these formulas. These will not be given to you. And so X equals the radius, which is 6, times cosine of 150 degrees. Y equals 6 times sine of 150 degrees. All right, you need to know the exact value, no decimals. So when you get 150 degrees, hold on here. That means that our reference angle is 30 degrees. And when you think about our unit circle, this is 1, opposite is 1/2 across from the 30 degrees and the square root of 3 over 2. So we got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So you need to know those relationships. So the cosine of 150 degrees, since it's going to be in quadrant 2, it's going to be negative. So X equals 6 times negative square root of 3 over 2. And that's going to become negative 3 square root of 3. Y equals 6 times the sine of 150. Well, the sine of 150 degrees is going to be this value right here, which is 1/2. 6 times 1/2 is 3. And I said it wanted the rectangular coordinates, so it's going to be negative 3 square root of 3, 3. That's going to be our answer for part A. For part B, 8 square root of 2, 315. Okay, that's going to be all the way in quadrant 4. That means that distance is 8 radical 2. That means this is 315 all the way around, which gives me a reference angle of 45 degrees. X equals R cosine theta. Y equals R sine theta. So X equals 8 square root of 2 cosine of 315. Y equals 8 square root of 2 sine of 315. All right, well, cosine and sine of 315, you got a 45 degree angle. If you go back to our unit circle work, when you got a 45 degree, 45, 45, 90, hypotenuse is 1, your side lengths are square root of 2 over square root of 2. So X is going to be 8 square root of 2. The negative is going to go with the Y value, which would be the sine. 8 square root of 2, cosine of 315 is going to be square root of 2 over 2, positive. Let's see here. This 2 cancels with that 8, gives you a 4. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. So in the end, we get an 8. Same thing's going to happen over here, but that's going to be 8 radical 2 times negative square root of 2 over 2. And that's going to end up equaling negative 8. Coordinates of our point, X and negative 8. Make sure your positives and negatives match up with the quadrant of the polar coordinate. 150 degrees has to be in quadrant 2, which means you have to have a negative X and a positive Y. 315 is in quadrant 4, which means you have to have a positive X and a negative Y. So 8, negative 8. All right, number 8. Now we're going the opposite direction. Convert rectangular coordinates to polar coordinates. R theta with a positive R and a positive angle between 0 and 360. Now here, 5 square root of 3. That's in quadrant 1. That means that's my x value is 5. 5 square root of 3 would be my y value if you think about a right triangle. That is my r value. R equals the square root of x squared plus y squared. So r equals the square root 5 squared plus 5 square root of 3 squared. Well, if you go through here, that's going to be 25. This is going to be 75. We get the square root of 100, which is 10. So that's going to be my r value. I'm going to refer to the reference angle, which is this angle right here. Now, in this case here, our reference angle will be actually the angle we're going to use. This is always going to equal the inverse tangent, and I like to do the absolute value of, it's going to be the y, always y over x, because opposite would be y, x would be adjacent. So my reference angle equals inverse tangent, 5 square root of 3 over 5. Now you can type that in your calculator, but you can also notice that those 5's cancel. And I can write this as theta prime equals inverse tangent of square root of 3 because it's positive. Make sure I'm in degree mode. Inverse tangent, square root of 3, and I get 60 degrees. Well, since that's going to be my angle here, it's in quadrant 1, that gives me the polar coordinates of that point. So it's going to be 10, 60 degrees. So that's going to be that answer. All right, think about this one. -4, 0. Where is that? That is right here. You might be able to figure it out by just looking at it. But let's go through the work. R equals the square root x squared plus y squared. Don't forget, since that -4 is being squared, that'll make that a positive. You get 16 plus 0. You get the square root of 16. You get r equals 4. Now, you can't make a right triangle, but this is where theta prime equals the inverse tangent of the y coordinate over the x coordinate. So I get the inverse tangent of 0 over -4, which is equivalent to the inverse tangent of 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. Well, if you want to think about it and go to your calculator, get inverse tangent 0, it will tell you 0 degrees. Now, that's not our final angle because look where we're at. That's our reference angle. We're saying our reference angle is 0. So that means our actual angle will be 180 degrees. So in polar coordinates, it's 480. Okay, so that was number 8. All right, let's take a look at number 9. Okay, on a polar graph, since you're allowed to use your calculators at all times, your graphing calculators, this is one way I'll have you graph an equation. I will give you a chart, and so you don't have, it was generated from an equation, but you don't have that in front of you. So what you need to do is graph each point and connect. These again are going to be 30-degree spokes. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, back to 0 or 360. So 0 degrees, the radius is 4. So that would be right here. And we're going to end up connecting them in a smooth curve. At 30 degrees is 3.6. You're going to have to estimate 1, 2, 3, 3.6. All right, 45 degrees, you got to estimate that. That's going to be halfway between 30 and 60. The R is 3.1, so I go out 1, 2, 3. 3.1. 60 degrees, 2.5. 90 degrees is 1. Okay, now here's what we got to watch. 120 degrees is negative 0.5. So you go to 120, you go through 0, and you draw it back here. Well, one thing you got to watch is anything that goes from a positive to a negative at some point had to go through 0. So I'm going to connect these points at this point with a smooth curve. So the first few. Now, once it gets to 90, it goes to 120 at negative 0.5. It'll go a little bit here, but it has to go through 0 to get to that point. 135 is negative 1.1. So go to 135, go through there, negative 1.1 would be here. 150 would be back here. 180 is negative 2. 210 is negative 1.6. So here would be 210, go through here. 225, which would be halfway in between, is negative 1.1. So that's going to be right there. And now at 240, we get negative 0.5. And now we go back to the positives where 270 is 1. So I got to go back through 0. So at this point here, I go around. I go back through 0. Oops, I got a little bit wide there. And so that is a point 271. 300, 2.5, 315, 3.1, 330, 3.6, and then 360 is 4. So that's what you get as one of those cardioids with an inner loop for that one. So you will see something with a chart, and you've got to graph and connect those points from there. Okay, that is your Unit 8 review. I will have this posted here, or you won't see it till it is posted. But I'll get the other two up here shortly. Thank you.